So all year long, the clergy and I, the musicians, all of us are going to be thinking with you about what it means to be in God's household. You may remember that a year or so ago, we did a whole teaching on God's economy. And when we were doing that, we were thinking especially about economic justice. It was around the time of Occupy Wall Street. And we worked on living wage campaigns, and we worked on hunger issues, and we worked on all kinds of economic issues. What you may not know is that the word economy comes from the word oikon, which in the Greek means household. So when we're talking about God's household, we're talking about God's economy, God's oikon. And we don't just mean economic justice. All of the things that are true in God's household are, yes, everybody has enough. Enough food on the table, enough clothes on their back, enough money to raise their children and take care of their families. In God's household, all of the children have safe places to learn and grow and become adults. In God's household, nobody's trying to take free lunch off the table. In God's household, college students get to go to school, they get to graduate without debt and have jobs to do. In God's household, the conversation about gay is a done deal because we recognize that God created everybody just exactly as they are. In God's household, racism is a past tense conversation because in God's household, white superiority is a myth that was disproven. And I'm just saying, in God's household, everybody, Latino and Black and Native Americans and all the multiracial, multicultural people are all holding hands and singing praises to God in one voice. In God's household, our environment is not being polluted and treated like a toilet. In God's household, all of us live into our full image of Godness. Our child of Godness is a splendid crown we wear, like our dreadlocks or our Afro puffs or our beautiful blonde stuff. We wear the image of God like a mantle and like a beautiful garment, and we are able to be for each other love and light. That's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're going to be talking about. And today we're talking a little bit about the suffering that happens along the way to the reign of God. Paul, I'm just going to have to drink this water because I'm allergic. Paul was writing in a particular context and a particular time in history where he was trying to help those new Christians, those new followers of the way, understand their life vis-a-vis becoming the people of God. Okay, they had been the people of God. Paul was Jewish and they were Jewish, and Jesus was Jewish, and Jesus had come to give them a new way to be the people of God. Paul himself had been changed, transformed, had his name changed from Saul to Paul, had his life turned upside down by a close encounter of the holy kind with the Spirit of Jesus Christ on the road, and turned into a new person. Turning into a new person is hard. Turning into a new person is hard work. Somebody say amen. Amen. It is not easy to shift your worldview. It is not easy to change your personality. In fact, psychologists say the most we can change, maybe kind of, is 15% of ourselves. But no, Paul flipped it all the way around and went from a persecutor of the Christians to a Christian, making an apologetic for being a Christian, making an argument for being a Christian. Paul suffered on the way to his new identity, and those new followers of the way suffered also. Not like us, like maybe some of our young adults are on the down low Christian, because if they tell their friends they're Christian, they'll just be freaked out. No, not like that, like suffering for being a Christian, like persecuted for being a Christian, like what happens in China and other places in the world. They were tormented and tortured for being Christian. On the way to being the people of God in the new way, Paul was trying to make a context for their suffering. He says, the suffering that we experience today is nothing compared to the glory that's about to be revealed in us. The suffering is nothing compared to the glory that's about to be revealed in us. And what's about to be revealed in us? Well, It's about to be plain to anyone who would look and see that we are the children of God. We have the first fruits of the Spirit, he says, and we're just waiting. We're just waiting for the second part of it to come. We're waiting. We're just waiting for the full redemption of our bodies, the full reclaiming of our bodies. And I don't think Paul was talking about heaven. I think he was talking about right then and there, in that time and space. Because, Jesus was supposed to come back in about 10 minutes after he had been ascended. Like a half hour maybe. I mean, it was kind of immediate sense of the next thing is going to happen. The fulfillment of the promises of God are urgent and immediate and right now. So Paul is saying, while we wait for the full transformation of ourselves, while we wait to become absolutely, perfectly, fantastically the children of God, there is suffering. There's suffering. There's squeezing and pushing and shoving. Now, I personally have never had a child, so I could tell you that I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. But in fact, I do, right? And Paul hadn't himself, I don't think so, despite the Imagine conference, right, Adrian? Paul was a man, right? So Paul had not himself given birth, but he knew, and that's why he employed that metaphor. Babies being born is some hard work. There's a stretching and a pulling of muscle. There's a ripping and tearing of tissue. There is tough breathing work that has to happen for the baby to come out of the mama, and the baby is traumatized, coming through there head first and then shoulders. Hello, it's kind of tight down there. So when Paul employs this imagery of childbirth, you can feel him picking up children of God, adopted into the family of God, co-heirs with Christ, being born. Can you feel that? Being born into the family of God. He says all of creation is waiting like a woman in childbirth. Not just us, not just the people, but the earth, the waters, the rocks, the rivers, the trees, the environment, the skies, the aminals, everybody, all of it is waiting for the children of God to be shown for who they are. Because when the children of God are shown for who they are, they will sing like that and like that. And when the children of God are shown for who they are, they will feed people in the streets. And they will not be afraid to reach out and love strangers. They will touch today's lepers and make them welcome. When the children of God are revealed, the whole world will look like this. I wish you could see what we see from here. Allie, come. Yeah, come now. Come quickly. I wish you could see what we see from here. Tom, come. Come quickly. This looks like children of God to me. Turn around and tell them what you see.
Ooh, children of God.
Turn around and tell them what you see.
I do. You're right.
Children of God. Amen. Right. Amen. Thank you. Not just in this place, not just in these four walls, but in every congregation across the globe, in every classroom across the globe, in every marketplace, every workplace. The multi-culti, multi-ethnic, multi-class, multiple sexual orientation, multiple hairdo and body types, multiply gifted community of God. This is what the creation is groaning to see. And not only how we look, but how we be. How do we be agents of change? How do we be waymakers for each other? How do we be healing forces for each other? How do we be light? So I want to try to work that birthing metaphor 4 ways pretty quickly. One is, sometimes we are the baby coming out of the womb. Sometimes we are the ones being changed. We are the ones being transformed. We are the ones being worked upon. The choir is singing, I told Jesus it'd be all right if he changes my name, and they're singing change, and both of those tenses Or one, I told Jesus I've been changed. There's a kind of claiming of the reality that you are going to go through the birth canal and you are going to be changed. And I'm saying, and it hurts. It just does. So one way to deal with let's call it a theology of change. A theology of change is to expect there to be some pain along the way. We are not going to get through life without pain. And the worst theology I ever hear preached is somehow magically, because we're Christians, well, there's like a force field around us, and we're in a bubble. And nothing's going to hurt, and nothing's going to cause us to cry. In fact, we hurt, we cry, we grieve, we mourn, we struggle, we suffer. And to me, redemptive suffering is the way we make meaning of that. Like, redemptive suffering isn't like beat your wife and she gets better. No. Redemptive suffering is like you yourself have a theology of suffering that lets you know that in the process, God is going to fix you, heal you, change you, grow you up. We are in the birth canal, 1. 2, sometimes we are midwives. We're midwives, meaning we are coaching each other. And I just don't mean the clergy. I mean, some of you are dance captains, and some of you are teachers, and some of you are ad execs, and some of you are parents. You are in the business of coaching. But every single one of us is a midwife to the best self of our family. You with me? Every single one of us is called to coach and correct and encourage the very best highest self from our friends and our family. Who do you want to be? Spinners used to sing a song, who do you think you are? Who do you want to be? We want to be children of God. So we want to be a mirror for each other. This is what child of Godness looks like. And we're midwives when we show each other, encourage each other, thank each other, and every now and then say, baby, that doesn't look like child of God behavior to me. Let's practice that. Baby, that does not look like child of God behavior to me. See how we can do, now from this day forward, you might not even have to finish the whole sentence. You could just go, baby. Let me do this to the side of the room. Baby. And then it'll be like they'll finish the rest of the sentence, okay? So that's 2. 3, all of our culture is in the birth canal, and you can feel it. There's change all around us. It's amazing to me. Amazing good things and quite a lot of pathos. Fantastic stuff to celebrate and hot messes all around the globe. It's depressing if we're not careful to see how we're moonwalking backwards around civil rights. It's discouraging if we're not careful. I've been thinking in a theology of change, we look even at the backsliding, even as the mishaps, even the going backwards as God at work, changing that into something that can work for us. For example, that stupid, please quote me online, stupid Hobby Lobby decision. I can't wrap my mind around it. I was in the mountains writing when it happened, and I was glad I couldn't see it in real time. I think my head would have exploded. It was just, what? A corporation is a person, and a Christian corporation person won't give birth? That's just about sexism, and you know that. So something like that kind of tips back feminism and womanism, just takes us back to the daggone 1940s or something, generates frustration and energy and anger. So 100 clergy signed a letter and sent it to President Obama, and I'm sure you've been doing your thing. If that didn't happen, you understand what I'm getting ready to say? If that doesn't happen, we kind of just glide on through life and we say we fixed it all and it's okay, and we have a black president, so there's no more racism, and the women, Hillary was a Secretary of State, so there's no more sexism. Hello. So these kinds of hiccups also motivate us to do something about it. That's what I'm talking about by a theology of change. And finally, somebody has to push. Somebody has to push. Now, some babies come out with a pull. That's a fact. Not a biology lesson, but you know. Sometimes you have to pull. Sometimes there's a C-section and it's pulled. But there's a lot of pushing that happens in the birthing process. And I think we Christians sometimes think we're supposed to be polite and nice and careful and gentle. Okay, no. No. No, we are called to be assertive about the reign of God. Maybe even a little aggressive about the reign of God. Paul was not a wimp, and Jesus wasn't one either. Say that with me. Paul was not a wimp, and Jesus wasn't one. You sound kind of like you're not sure. Jesus was not a wimp. Jesus was not a wimp. Unless you think he was all nice and had his fingers like this all the time and had, curly blonde hair and blue sparkling eyes. Likely he was kind of brown. He might have even had hair like this. Who knows for sure? But I love the scene in the Bible where he's having a temple tantrum. He's just mad as hell. And when he called people brood of vipers, that was a cuss word in those days. Do not mistake this rabbi, who is our model for human life, as not having a certain amount of anger and passion and frustration and urgency to push this system where it's supposed to go. Somebody's got to push. Somebody's pushing. Somebody's pushing an agenda that has nothing to do with this kind of community. Somebody's pushing an agenda that has nothing to do with women's rights or LGBT justice or the right for every child to have enough. Somebody's pushing an agenda that takes us back to the good old days in the 50s. The good old days were not good for my people in the 50s. How about you? Somebody's pushing. And the way it works in the system world is there's a push in this direction, and if we don't push back, it's all going to go to hell. And what we want is for it to go to the reign of God. We're going to be talking about this stuff for a whole year, making a map about how to do it well together. We're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're going to love ourselves while we go through the stuff. We're going to fall down. We're going to get back up. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to talk about change. Middle's not the same as it was 10 years ago. Thanks be to God. Can you imagine standing still for 10 years? And the world isn't the same. Somebody's got to push to give birth. Because all of creation is waiting. All of creation is waiting for the children of God, to show themselves. Now push.